It turns out that Amazon have a genius solution to the idea of not merging Fresh into Legacy, and that is basically just to kill Fresh. Now that might be a little bit dramatic, but let me show you what they're doing, and then you could be the judge yourself. And what they are basically doing is they are depreciating the fresh start status of the world Sutek. Don't know if that's how you say it, don't hate me, I don't know. And what this boils down to is that they are literally just not going to call it a fresh start server anymore. It's a pretty genius idea, really. You can't complain about Fresh being merged into Legacy if it's no longer Fresh. I mean, technically they're right. And that is what they're going to do. I'm not going to read this whole blurb, right? It's actually quite a lot of just stuff being like, with the vision of the game, the server's health, and all this kind of stuff. And it's basically because not all worlds can maintain a sufficiently active population to support new world's large-scale game mode. And then they say, and this is the key bit for me, in accordance with our initial promise when Fresh Start worlds were introduced, we will refrain from merging a single remaining Fresh Start world in a region if its population falls below a healthy threshold. So they're not merging this world, they're basically abandoning it for all intents and purposes. They do say abandoning it is not an option. That is basically what they're doing. They're basically taking it away from being a fresh start server and making it a normal server. Therefore, there is no Fresh in this realm anymore, which makes sense because the player base literally can't sustain it. I actually am on board with that. And it's pretty much because there's only 2 servers, I think, in the Asia Pacific region. You've got Sutek and Delos. They understand that it's not ideal, but we strongly believe it offers the best way. You know what I think would have actually just offered the best way? If they never made that promise in the first place, because that promise was a little bit too big of a promise. I really don't like that they said never. What they could have simply said is that we will only merge if it gets to this situation where there's Fresh and Legacy together. Well, you might as well just be in one combined. And that is what is now happening. So on May the 24th at 10 AM, it's going to transition to a standard world. The Fresh Start world indicator is being removed. You can transfer in and out, but the 30-second cooldown does remain in effect. Characters stay on that world so they don't get moved off, and there's no downtime. A bit of me, and maybe I'm being a little bit cynical here, a bit of me thinks that they just want to milk the players who are stuck on that dead server and want to get you to transfer off, because there's not really much benefit from staying there now. You might get the reverse, there might be some hardcore farmers who want to try and milk like low level resources, but yeah, I'm maybe a little bit dubious about this. The Fresh Start worlds in other regions will remain unchanged, generally because if there's enough population on that Fresh Start community, then they're trying to keep them separate. But do not be fooled, if your population falls enough in like your region that you can not have enough Fresh players still playing, they'll just ditch the Fresh tag and you'll be left to your own devices. What is sort of cool though is that they are doing a bonus event. So to facilitate a smoother transition and promote the forging of new friendships, words I can't say, Sutek will host an exclusive bonus XP event called the Welcome Party. Going to last 14 days, and during this event character XP will be boosted to double the rate, and the gathering and refinement of fishing trade skills will also receive enhanced benefits. Basically just being like, yay, don't hate us, I think. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. I'm not really sure you have much choice in that unless you don't play the game, but okay, fair enough. And really, my main note here is just to lament the idea of Fresh Start servers. I think Fresh Start was really just sort of like, it was a marketing tool. They fixed a lot of the major things that happened at launch, and they were like, hey, if you want to come back, now's a decent time, we'll do Fresh for you. Let's get you back in. See how you feel about the game. I was sort of on board with it. But to expect Fresh to just stick around forever and then to say that they would never merge, I felt like that was a little bit silly. I would have preferred if they just said simply this: if the population got too low, we will merge you into one server. But we will only do it if the population goes that low. Because my point was like, what happens if we get further Fresh when the expansion launches? What if we get Fresh again? Do we then have 2 tiers of Fresh? I just think it's all a little bit weird. I think they could have said it's going to be Fresh for, well, hell, it'll just be Fresh for 2 years. It'll be Fresh for a distinct period of time. There's a lot of caveats that they could have added, and people would have been like, all right, fair enough. Some people might be like, I'm never playing on that because of all the dupes and the exploits and stuff like that. At this point, I don't suspect, no, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Fresh is very different from Legacy. And if we get to a point in a couple of years' time where Fresh and Legacy are effectively the same thing, then what is the point of still arbitrarily entirely keeping them separate. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I think they just said the wrong thing at launch. They should at some point probably just back down on that promise. And instead of backing down on the promise, they're coming around with, let's face it, a little bit of a sneaky way of getting around it. Hey, we're not merging your Fresh server. You're just not Fresh anymore. Lols. I like the idea of Fresh. I really dislike the way that they have handled it ever since then. Well, I actually disliked it the way that they handled it then because of the wording they used. But ever since then, I think it's been a little bit weird. Hopefully, if they ever do Fresh again, that they do it in a slightly different way, and a way where they don't have to do these sort of weird caveats. That's the dream, that's the hope. There's no video today on the Forged in Eternum because it was quite simply very boring. They basically said that there's two types of patches, major ones and minor ones, and more effort goes into the major ones. Boom, tick that video off, that was all that was said. See you next week. But let me know your thoughts on the Fresh issue. Big shout out to my YouTube members again, and I'm going to be streaming a lot on Twitch this week, but be aware it's actually going to be the Throne and Liberty beta. I've managed to get into the Korean version, and I'm going to be streaming it all week, providing I don't get banned. It starts on Wednesday at 8 AM UK time. Be there or don't. What you should definitely do though is have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.